Hi everyone, Jason here, reminding you to like and subscribe to our channel for more supporter news. It really helps us out. And now, on with the show.
All right, ready to try this again?
We'll try this again. Welcome to another episode of Hear the Noise. Ted Godwin in the HTN studio alongside Ryan Arrowwood. How you doing, Ryan?
Doing good. It's we got a lot more information than we had a little bit more than last week, and it's definitely in the midst of preseason for
a lot of preseason. We're going to talk about a new captain today, some more PFC news, some Lakeside Boys news. Maybe have some fun with some new kits that come out. Ours hasn't come out yet, but a couple of teams have got theirs.
Well, not officially.
Not officially. And we'll even talk about the national team and maybe some World Cup news. So I think we got a bunch to get to.
Yeah, you can start off with the breaking news segment that literally I think came out today, or was it yesterday? I think it was today.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. But right now, I think, is this what you're talking about Josh Hurd?
Yeah, I'm following the schedule.
I'm sorry, the schedule.
It is the breaking news. Like, I think that got announced, like, it's today or yesterday. Well, based on our filming. Though.
As we're prepping the show.
There it is.
As we're prepping the show. PFC has announced that their captain for this year is going to be Josh Hurd. I mean, I think that's great news.
It's well deserved. He has been literally with the team from the beginning, and he's always felt like, from what we could tell, a pretty good presence in the locker room. And I think having him as the captain makes the most sense, especially with our roster right now. Unless someone had really stepped it up, because I know it's a newer roster, but unless somebody else really stepped it up, I think he pretty much was a shoo-in for this.
Well, it's been interesting. I think there's been a couple of guys who've, over the last couple of years, have showed leadership, but certainly there's been no reason to talk about anybody else other than our former captain, Jamar Dixon, who did a fantastic job and has now moved into coaching side. And so Josh has stepped in. I think he's got to be the popular choice. Local boy, comes in, makes good. He's always been a solid presence and a calm, and I've always thought quite good leadership qualities from him.
Yeah, and he's a good guy to hang out with. I mean, from our most recent interview, you can see he's got plenty of charisma, and that experience, even being a local, is also really nice. Former Highlander, I believe.
Yeah, former Highlander, and got his start with Lake Hill.
Even better.
Local Lake Hill boy. Yeah,
so that takes it back to the day. But yes, a local Islander, it's always nice to literally be representing completely. Like, this is where he started playing. This is where he's playing his professional career right now. You can't get much better representation.
Yep, and of course, I don't know if they're actually named as assistants, but the press release that came out from Pacific did highlight that there was a leadership team, right? It showed a picture of Hurd.
Is there assistants? I thought usually there might be one. I mean, I thought hockey was the one where you have like 15 assistants.
I know, right? It's not really a formal kind of thing, but obviously when someone steps off the field, someone else steps in.
Yeah.
And certainly they highlighted a leadership team, which included Manny Aparicio, Amar Didic, and, oh boy, and I've forgotten who the fourth one was. There was a fourth player.
I'm not going to remember.
Hopefully it will be shown here.
We'll edit that in post.
In post, God.
But no, I didn't even realize they named those people ahead of time either. I thought it was more of usually a kind of game time decision where they decided, like, all right, if you're coming out, get the armband to this guy. Or the manager would just say it. It's like, look, you're going to go sub out for this guy, take the armband, you're going to captain, or tell him to give the armband to somebody else.
That's the thing. I don't think it's anything terribly official, but it's just showing there's a core of veterans that are going to be helping lead.
Yeah, because I knew that was always usually like, a moment of pride for anyone to at least briefly get the captain's armband, even if it was, I got subbed in the 20th minute or, the 80th minute and got to be the captain for 10 minutes. Exactly. It was still an honor, and it's definitely a bigger honor on the international stage, but I thought it was still a pretty decent honor for even club sports.
Yeah, so it was interesting to see him going to lead the team now. We'll see if his first actual game as captain, I guess, is going to be the preseason game coming up. Before that, though, we had a game last weekend.
Yeah, so what has become a semi-preseason tradition, we played the Vikes at Centennial here in town. I like that this is kind of more traditional now, just because it is a chance to bring to bring Pacific back closer into the core of Victoria. It's not quite playing at RAP, which would be all the way downtown, but it's close enough to where I still think they get a good showing. And even with what amounted to a one-day turnaround on Pacific's part, they still had a pretty decent crowd come out for a free game, I'd be, if they'd sold tickets, they would have made some money.
It was cold and it was dark, but it was a lot of fun.
Yes. Yeah, somebody forgot to turn on the lights in the concession area, so for some reason it was one of those horror movie kind of moments for just walking to the bathroom.
Hey, I was just glad that the lights were on in the bathroom.
Yeah, that's true. That would have made it really worse. But it was good times. I caught a bunch of local other soccer people there as well. Like, I noticed there was a good bit of the actual Highlanders who were also, I guess, training as well. They were there as well to watch that. So, yeah, it was a good event. I liked watching it. We had the A team for specific was in the first half, and that's where all our goals came from. I think it was Aparicio, Hurd. I can't remember who scored the last goal. Somebody else. And then the second half was more of the B team moved in, and the second half was actually nice and competitive. I feel it ended up being 3-0, like nothing really changed. But there was chances on both sides, which actually made for a much more interesting half of soccer anyway, just because the Vikes had a couple of chances as well as the B team also showed some good moves out there. And it was nice to see. We definitely saw a lot of faces that I don't know who they are, and they don't put the names on the jerseys when they're playing in preseason, so you never know who anybody is.
And it doesn't help that being at UVic, the sight lines are so much further back from the field.
Yeah, it turns out that 20-foot of track is annoying for that reason.
Yep. We'll head back to Starlight on Friday. It's going to be much better. The pole will have moved.
Yeah.
That's going to make a difference for a game that's not really being officially advertised. So this brings up an interesting point. You talked about the short turnaround for the UVic game.
Yeah.
I don't think they've announced at all that there's another preseason game this Friday.
Yeah. I don't know the reasoning. When I felt like at least some of the other teams were doing some announcements for their stuff. But yeah, I mean, we might see the same deal. Like, keep an eye out. If they keep doing this one-day turnaround, maybe we'll hear about it on Thursday. So I think it's kind of interesting, kind of not. I know definitely before they had a lot of closed-door friendlies, and they were closed-door. Like, nobody knew about them, and they were played, like, at Island Training or somewhere else. But these are supposed to be, like, open. Like, people are welcome to come. It's just I don't think they're giving everyone... They're not actively announcing them yet. They might. Yeah,
it's basically, as far as I understand, they will happen to be playing at 7 o'clock at Starlight Stadium against the Vancouver Whitecaps FC 2, but nothing will be open. In this case, maybe the bathrooms will be open. Who knows? We don't even know that.
Well, if the Vikes can manage to open up their bathrooms, I'm sure Pacific can manage that. That being said, there might be legal reasons, or they just don't want to shell out for people to be working a non-paying for game. I don't know, but at the same point in time, this is a good time to build. Like, when you offer a free game, the thing is that means anyone can show up, whether or not you're a season ticket holder or you've never been to a Pacific game. It's a decent chance for someone to come watch some of your team play for nothing.
So let's hope the weather's okay, and we'll get to see some interesting action.
Yes, hope so.
All right, next we have a little bit of news for local supporters. Pacific FC, the Lakeside Boys, the longest existing Pacific FC and Highlanders supporters group in town, has made a big change. And for that, we're going to go to Mike Eldridge, president of the Lakeside Boys.
What was that special meeting that the Lakeside Boys had yesterday about? What was that vote about?
Yeah, so the special general meeting, it had been a long time coming, but and there were a couple things discussed, but the key thing was about removing Victoria Highlanders FC from our constitution and bylaws. Specifically because a motion had been made at our annual general meeting to do that, so much discussion was had, and we put it to a vote. The results are that we will be removing Victoria Highlanders FC from our constitution. But it also, and I want to be clear on this one, it feels like the kind of thing that shouldn't need to be mentioned, but I'm going to do it anyways, that doesn't preclude members of the Lakeside Boys from supporting whatever club they like. there might be some gentle ribbing and, that kind of thing. But there's no reason that if you chose to support the Victoria Highlanders FC while wearing Lakeside Boys clothing or anything like that, that would be a problem or anything with us as a group.
Okay, so I think in a way he makes it sound both simpler and more complicated than it really is. I mean, it's simply we decided that the Lakeside Boys are going to focus one supporters club for one football club.
Yeah, the decision to start all this goes back to literally before Pacific officially even existed, when we first debated this exact thing, when we were trying to form the Lakeside Boys in an actual society and not just a couple of hooligans that hang out at the tap house and also go to Highlanders games. When we were trying to transition that into an actual society, that's when we had to actually write a constitution and come up with rules and stuff like this. And at the time, we were trying to basically continue to support both teams at the time, because, I'm not going to lie to you, we didn't know if CPL was going to be a one and done league. Nobody did. We had no idea. It was obviously set up to not be that way, and here we are 4 years later. It was not. But at the time, we were covering our bases. We were also trying to keep hold of a lot of membership that we had at the time, because we did have a mix of people that were super excited about Pacific, and we still had people that were very interested in Highlanders.
Well, and that's the interesting part, is that, I mean, Lakeside Boys started back in, I think it was 2009, with the Highlanders at what is now Starlight Stadium. And that's where we got our silly name from. We were beside Langford Lake.
Yes, the pond was...
The pond, the retaining pond, which was near the lake. And, it wasn't meant to be all that serious. We were just a bunch of soccer supporters who wanted to support the local team. So along comes PFC. We still want to support the local team. And we thought that we had something to share, and we knew it would grow. So it grew into something bigger. But there's been some confusion the last couple of years. Let's face it. But actually, to be honest, there was confusion the very first day. Because there was another group that formed, in part, they've told us, because they didn't realize that there was a supporters group for PFC.
Yeah.
Because they thought Lakeside Boys was a Highlander supporters group. So the confusion's been long-standing. This separates it out. And I'm actually looking forward to this, because this means when we go to Highlanders games, we'll be supporting Highlanders. When we go to PFC games, we'll be supporting PFC. And as Mike says, wear whatever you want, be whoever you want. Just as a club, as a supporters club, there won't be money and time going into the different projects. My guess is there's going to be a lot of overlap.
100% actually is the actual overlap, which was the other reason why this whole deal was like whatever, because the actual overlap of people that go to Highlanders games and people that go to Pacific games are in fact 100%, to the point where the math and attendance record was presented to the board while I was on it, that pretty much explained, so this would change nothing. Like, it just means in an official capacity, the Lakeside Boys supporter group does not have to do anything for Highlanders, which is exactly what was already happening. So it's a bunch of kerfuffle to basically end up with the same results.
Yep. And hopefully we can move past this and away we go. Now, however, what it means is, as a group of Highlander supporters, we get to come up with a whole new identity.
It does. It leaves it open to basically reinvent the wheel or whatever we want to do. Yeah. Or we could keep doing what we're doing and nobody would care. That's the best thing. We still have all the old brand Lakeside Boys stuff. It literally doesn't matter. Because even though it's not officially in the Constitution still does read support local soccer. I'm pretty sure that is in there, as both of us have read and many times that Constitution, to where it's ingrained in the brain. It may not call out the Highlanders specifically anymore, but there's nothing that stops.
And I think that's really the main thing, is support local soccer.
Yes.
Okay, great. So moving on a bit outside of the realm of the local side here, we wanted to talk about some new kits coming up. Yes. So the dribs and drabs are starting to come, and so far we have 2 new kits come out. Winnipeg Valor and Halifax Wanderers have both announced their kits over the last little while. Before we jump into theirs, though, any word on PFC kits?
Magic 8 Ball says we probably got a week or two before we all get a great invite to the launch event for the jerseys, because that's basically what happened at all the other ones. And based on the fact that they had 2 jersey reveals in one day, and I think I can do the math, it means there's 5 more to go. Yeah, the chance of it happening somewhere, well, it's obviously going to happen before the season starts, but I would say to keep drumming up the support in the way they're doing, give it a week or two. We'll all get an invite that says you should come out to this super secret event that'll probably be at the training center.
Now, I got to say that I'm once again underwhelmed by the opposition jerseys. And
I want to steal those lightsaber things. That's probably all I learned from the kid announcement. Those are cool. I don't know who figured out that idea that you can just hook a battery to a halogen bulb and it looks like a lightsaber.
There you go.
That's all I learned from this.
As long as it's a fashion kind of event, I suppose.
I guess.
But looking at the jerseys, I mean, you got to say, I guess subtlety is cool sometimes, but they've just taken the whole sublimated design to a stupid extreme. Because you look at Halifax, they have a blue jersey and a white jersey.
Yeah.
And
I want to think.
Really?
Has anyone? No, there was Forge. I think you said hoops, but they weren't real hoops. They were like one hoop.
Well, see, that's the thing. There's subtle hoops on the Halifax away. It's a white. Of them all,
very subtle.
Very subtle hoops.
Man, everyone likes to do subtle on their jerseys when you could just go and do whatever.
Well, right, and then
big stripes, whatever.
And then there's a great idea on the Winnipeg one I kind of liked, which is a very subtle design. It's actually got a map of old Winnipeg.
You see,
there's a street map
that's
on
cool.
there, but it's barely visible.
You probably won't see it unless you're like a foot
away.
away.
You have to literally be this close to see anything. And I'm sorry, but PFC has had the best jersey on the planet last year.
Yes.
And that's the way to go. Bold, visual. Not
yeah, I can see what's on that jersey from, my seats.
Yeah.
I can tell it's a cool looking white with some awesome black tribal drawings on it. It's great. I think that is definitely the most unique jersey the CPL has ever had. And to tell you the truth, I don't think anyone's going to get close to it this year. And I'm pretty sure we're going to continue to use it again this year. So
I hope so. Yeah,
I think they actually already said it's going to continue to be our 3rd jersey for the season.
I believe so. Yeah. So
we will see it again, and it's an awesome. And nobody else has gotten close to that identity. Like, think of how many jerseys in the CPL are a single color with subtle details.
Yeah.
Because the only ones I can think that aren't that way, ours, it's definitely not subtle on the 2 colors that are on our indigenous jersey. And then I think Forge had a big hoop at one point, I think, where it was orange and then gray. So it was really obvious 2 colors at least, though.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone has done a stripe. I'm probably wrong.
The closest came was Winnipeg. I think for the one season, they went from the Man United all red to the Arsenal with white sleeves.
Okay.
But now they've gone back to
that was
all
true.
red.
And then Atletico obviously has their own shtick with vertical stripes.
Yes.
And they still do that. So they got an easy out.
That's a global brand, yes.
Yeah, there's an easy out. They probably just get the leftovers from HHQ and just pen a Campiel logo right here and call it a day.
And CIBC now, apparently.
They got a sponsor.
No, everybody gets that.
Oh, we all get that now?
Yeah, apparently everybody's getting CIBC on the sleeve because, you got to sell more real estate.
I guess.
Pay the bills. You got to pay the bills. Luckily here, we don't depend on paying the bills. All we hope is that you like and subscribe.
Oh, yeah, that's the video starts.
Hey, got to do that occasionally.
Yeah, I got it.
All right. Now, some of the players, though, from the CanPL who've moved on. So I wish I could say people were moving directly from the CanPL to the national team, but they're taking a stop. So we have some call-ups coming up, we're hoping. And so I think there's some names in the mix for the upcoming Nations League game. It's end of this month. We're going to be playing in Toronto. And there's some talk about former CanPL players. So Dominic Zator used to play for York United, now playing in Poland. Victor Laturi, he played in Calgary, but is currently in a relegation battle in Scotland, apparently. Jonathan Sirois, I guess we've seen a little more of him. He moved from Winnipeg, and now he's playing in Montreal.
Yes.
So he's actually getting minutes with Montreal.
Oh, he is?
I believe so. They've had some issues with their starting keepers.
So he's getting the full on.
He's getting some time.
Here's the gloves. Go do your job.
Yep. And then our favorite old boy here, Lucas McNaughton.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know if McNaughton has started or if he just had minutes yet. But I mean, he's been on the bench. I know he was on the bench in their opener. So
yeah, and he was. There was many here who were hoping he might actually have made the cut for Qatar. Didn't quite make it, of course.
Yeah,
he's still young, but all of these players, I think it's a great thing to see them coming up, having spent some time in the CPL, maybe actually getting a call up from Herdman.
It's onward and upward. I mean, that, as I've reiterated already, I mean, that's the point of the league. People are supposed to be advancing and furthering their playing careers, and it's good to see former players from this league move on and get the chance in national team call-ups like that.
And this is what MLS was doing 30 years ago, right?
Yes.
This is where we were. You weren't.
You get a few sprinkling of call-ups from MLS because that's how it used to be. It did, and that wasn't that long ago. Like I remember the 2010, 2014, those World Cup cycles from the U.S., you get a sprinkling of the highest of tiered MLS players would constantly make the roster, and the rest was all full of people from Europe. Yeah. And that actually is almost flipped for a lot of times, even where you get a lot more people you would think out of MLS that make call-ups, especially for the U.S. anyway, specifically. Yeah. We have a lot of higher tier players in MLS now that will consistently make those call-ups.
Exactly. And as we're approaching the next window, there's been some changes recently in terms of the windows for international games.
Yeah, there is going to be 9-day windows for two matches played in each of the 9 days, and there seems to be a lot of them. And I believe the Players Football Association just has a little bit of worry from their players. Because, take note, we played a World Cup in the winter, so there was no winter breaks for any leagues, because they all had to go play in a World Cup. So they will continue to burn the midnight oil up and through this year as well. And there's concerns because of a couple of different things. One, the news came out today that the World Cup in 2026 will be 104 teams. Or 104 games.
104 games, yep.
Not teams. That's the wrong number. 104 total games, which means there will be more wear and tear on players when that happens. The biggest deal with that, I believe, is we are now looking at groups of 4. So everyone's going to get, was that 3 games?
Yeah, that way we continue to get 3 games because it was going to just be 2.
Yeah, there was going to be some really weird rubber matches and garbage when we had a 3-team group. Because it basically means if you play and win your first game, you're going to go through. If you play and lose your first game, the next game doesn't freaking matter probably because you're out.
Yeah.
So this definitely gets us back to a more normal-ish World Cup format where you play your 3 group games and then it determines who wins.
And the good news is more matches, though, from a fan perspective. That means apparently 8 more games for Mexico. In Mexico, and 8 more games in Canada.
Yeah,
so
that is definitely the one. The venues will get more use. Well, we're not building anything, so we don't care. This is one of the few World Cups where I don't believe there's going to be any white elephant stadiums that exist in this one.
No, I don't think so.
No, I'm pretty sure every one of them is being played in existing stadiums with, at the most, upgrades going into place for those stadiums that will continue to see use. So that's good. And yes, there will be more games. Obviously, no one's close to announcing who's getting what games or what the actual number each city's going to get. But I know BC Place is done their will they, won't they, and decided they will. So we will see World Cup games at Vancouver.
Well, this is the great part. I mean, living here in the Pacific Northwest, we're going to get games in Seattle and Vancouver. True. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity to see games here, I think.
Yes. Yeah. That is true. We will see Seattle games as well. So we'll definitely see some good options to see some World Cup level soccer.
Yep. Anything else you want to talk about World Cup?
The other bit to add that got snuck into the bottom of the press release was actually about the Club World Cup, which is going to change its deal. I think right now it basically is played every year, and it's just the winner of the 7 conferences play, and somebody wins, right? They're going to change it to be more similar to be in line with the actual World Cup. It's going to be played every 4 years, the year after or year before. Actually, I don't remember what year. I think it's 2024, actually. Maybe the next one.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that. Anyway, the conference champions from the 4 years prior will then go into the tournament. And so you're looking at a 32-team tournament for the Club World Cup. So that's going to be some more interesting soccer because I don't know many conferences where the same team wins all 4 years in a row. It's pretty rare. It probably doesn't happen, like to the point where I think the only MLS team that has back-to-back a championship was DC United in the 90s.
Yep.
So it's pretty rare that you get more than one championship or CONCACAF championship in that amount of years. I think it'll definitely bring some interesting variety of teams because like Seattle, who was not playing well last year in the MLS, they won their cup. So if that had worked out in their favor, they could have basically built for that Club World Cup. They've got a year, a little bit of time.
Yep.
And then they would have been, hitting a full stride by the time that came in and they could rock it. But that also leaves open just, you could see multiple teams out of each conference come in and play. So much more variety than just the 7 winners of that year.
Yeah, I got to say, I'd be much more interested in that tournament.
Yeah, because that one's usually kind of a footnote. Like, it's like, oh, the 7 teams played and, our conference guy lost. I'm like, okay, we'll just move on. It's less interesting.
Yeah.
And you every now and again hear who won the whole thing. And you're like, okay, good on them. But it doesn't have nearly the amount of prestige like the World Cup has. Obviously, yeah. It's always just kind of been a small footnote. I feel like this will definitely bring a little more hype to it, and at the very least, you're going to get more people watching it because you get at most 4 teams from one conference.
Yep.
So that's more fans that want to watch. Whereas right now, every year you get 1 team per. Or not even conferences, confederations.
Yeah,
so,
federations, yeah.
So you get the 1 team that represents all of Canada, the United States, and Mexico, and CONCACAF's also some of the islands too. So like all of that gets represented under 1 team.
And maybe as a big tournament, it will actually get some coverage, as you say, on TV because I don't think I remember actually being able to watch any games. Like I didn't know.
You had to look out for them. Like you had to go and seek them out. Like they would show them every now and again, but obviously there's only 7 teams, so I don't even know what their format was. But it was short. Like it doesn't take that long to go from 7 teams to 1. It's not like going from 32 to 1. A little bit longer series, but 7 to 1, they probably could knock it out in a few games.
Yeah, of course. Now in the past though. It was played in the winter, wasn't it?
I think so. I don't know what they did with this year, though, because obviously the actual World Cup was in the winter. But FIFA's schedule is going to be nutty for at least another cycle.
It is.
Till they figure it out. But they probably won't move the 2026 World Cup because we're not going to have to deal with the desert.
Let's hope not. Climate change is going to be that bad. Ooh, yes. Political.
Ooh, bit political, yes.
All right. Well, I think that covers it for this week. How you feeling?
Feeling good. Excited to see a few more Pacific games to just see how our boys are going to really play it out. We'll see if they change the lineup too much for the upcoming friendly this Friday.
Yep.
And
it's springtime.
See it.
It's coming.
Yeah.
Soccer season's coming.
What was the spoiler? Oh, there's supposedly 2 more signings. Somebody told me. So good news. We'll see some more people out there. And if I had a keener eye, I probably could have figured out who they were because I think they're already training with the team and we just don't know who they are.
True. We are so well informed.
Yeah. I literally should start printing out my project board with all the players' mugshots. That's about the only way I'm going to memorize all of them. It's going to take a little bit.
Fair enough.
It means those names on the back of the jersey do help you remember who people are.
Oh, yeah. That's for sure.
It's like they started that for a reason.
All right. On behalf of everybody here at HTN, I'm Ted Godwin. Thanks for watching. Give us a like, maybe share with your friends. And if you don't want to miss an episode, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Until next time, when you hear the noise.
Good. I think we got it.